What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of Motor City Realists. It's your boy Zach, alongside my co-host Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Good. It's worn off. I like Dan Campbell comments. Obviously, we'll talk about the shellacking we got by
Mhm.
Baltimore, but overall feeling good. We got Monday night game that we'll talk about, but yeah, still feel good. I'll talk, but yeah, I mean, starting to cool off here. A nice day, but we don't get that Tampa weather like you always get.
Yeah, I mean it's getting a little chilly for Florida down here, but I'm glad you could make it. I know we had some almost had a scare there with having to push the show another day, but
Yeah, yeah. The kids. Hey, my wife and I, we work hard to get these kids in. We actually put them to bed early, usually during school nights, and
Mhm.
sometimes, man, they can get so thrown out of their routine, whether it's a bath or a shower. My daughter's got Halloween tomorrow. She's dressing up as Wednesday Addams,
Oh,
so
okay.
so to school. So she had to get a shower tonight, get her hair done, and she's not one of those kids that, or I guess not one of those girls that likes to have her hair combed by mom or dad. So
Uh,
I tried to tap in, but my wife is a saint when it comes to that stuff. So
yeah, I had a couple sisters like that growing up, so I know how that goes. But yeah, glad we're here. We made it. Got a Wednesday show for you. Like you mentioned, we're gonna talk about that kick in the mouth we got this past weekend. So I guess we'll jump right into that. I said last week that I wouldn't be surprised if we lost this game, but I didn't think it was gonna be like this. So what were your? I know we were texting and you at one point turned it off in the second quarter. I mean, I know you came
yeah,
back quickly, but what's your? How you feeling?
I mean. We talked about what needed to happen, what was going to happen. I knew Lamar Jackson was basically. I said just shut down everything else, let Lamar do what he does, and I just felt like Lamar ran wild. I mean, it was bittersweet because Lamar went wild. He's my fantasy quarterback. I just couldn't bench him because he's a stud quarterback even when he's playing your team. But you just kind of wanted him to get a few points here, but still pull away with the win. But I mean, just everything he was doing, and we'll get to it. But I mean, from play one, I mean, they got us so far outside of our game plan because they just
Yeah.
went down and kept going, and we couldn't do anything. And yeah, I was just done. I mean, nothing we could do. Nothing made sense, and we got so far behind. And even when we got down in the red zone, I'm with Dan Campbell. You got to score touchdowns. You can't kick field goals. So it looked a lot worse than it was, which it was horrible anyways. But I mean, we couldn't get in the end zone. But I didn't want to see it like that. Like you said, I didn't want to see it that bad. I did have us winning, baby. I think I picked by like a field goal. Knew it was going to be close. But yeah, it's almost like there was so much media and national attention around the Lions and hype right now that, like Dan Campbell said, maybe we needed that going into Monday night. We got a huge game, obviously Monday night, another national game. They're going to be talking about getting kicked in the mouth. Um, the only good thing about that, and I say good thing, not that there was any good thing about it, is it was the AFC, so it didn't affect the NFC because the NFC was again beating up on each other this week. But yeah, it's still a team that you could potentially see in the playoffs, Super Bowl, or I mean, obviously Super Bowl.
Hmm.
So yeah, but Baltimore looked great. But I know we'll talk about it. I'll get your take real quick before we get into that. But there's a few things about that game that really chapped my ass.
Hmm.
But while
Yeah.
you were watching it, we were talking. What was your take? What did you think about that game?
Well, yeah. One thing I want to touch on right out the gate, which I think is kind of what you were just alluding to, is early on it seemed to me that like their offense was specifically their offensive line was
Just
manhandling
killing
our,
us,
our
yeah.
defensive line, our pass rush. Even when we were blitzing, it was like they were handling it, and then Jackson had time, was making good throws. When we weren't blitzing, it's the we couldn't collapse the pocket, and then and it actually my dad texted me and he was like, genius move by the Ravens wearing white gloves, and I mentioned something like that to you, and then I started looking, and it's like, yeah, they are, because we're wearing white jerseys, and they're nobody else except for the offensive line is wearing white gloves, and they're look, we're not going to sit here and be this real. We're not going to call ourselves realists.
No, we lost, and it really went.
Right.
But yes.
But I do want to say that there was, and they eventually started calling a couple of them. I don't know if one of the coaches got in the ref's ears, but for the first 2 drives, it was holding almost every play. It seemed like, and so with that being said, I'm not blaming the loss on that, because offensively we couldn't do anything on that side of the ball either. So even if they are holding us every play, we should be going out there and answering touchdowns with touchdowns, which we weren't doing. And I like what you said. I think it was good timing. This was another thought I had immediately following the game, because obviously the gut feeling is it sucks, right? We have all this momentum. We're finally a good team, we feel like, as a fan base. And then something like this happens. And like Dan Campbell's comments where he's like, you play enough games, that's going to happen from time to time. But I think it's better that we find out we're invincible now than, the first round of the playoffs. So in that respects,
I like it. And I even had, when we picked first episode all in the season, I had Baltimore beating us. Even though I picked them last week, or picked Detroit last week, just the way things were going.
I think I was the exact opposite.
Yeah, you took. And I thought it would. I think I had like 27-24, something like that. And even then, I thought it'd be a shootout. But like you said, we couldn't even answer on offense until late when we started. I felt like every time it was Amra was pretty much the only person that can move the ball. And then obviously Gibbs broke one to the outside, got his first touchdown, so good for him. But I felt like without Amra, there was really no movement. Laporta got a few here and there, but I mean, nothing worked. And biggest thing that I want to see going into Monday night, obviously, is this is the first time Ben Johnson has really been tested. So what's he going to take from this? Did he try to get too cute? Did he try to get his game plan get so far away that he just couldn't rebound from it? Then obviously Aaron Glenn. I mean, and again, this is the NFL. Everybody's going through it, but I mean, we're banged up. We're banged up. There's a lot of we're talking about early in the season having depth and things that we've never had, and here we are. Don't get me wrong, we're a lot better than where we were, but here we are. In the secondary, one of our strong suits, and Jerry Jacobs didn't play, and don't get me started on Will Harris, but they love the guy for some reason, Will Harris, and I don't know, but Jerry, it goes to show a guy like Jerry Jacobs, how he's made a name for himself and how much he really means to this team, him being out that game.
Yeah, and I look, the defense, it got out of hand so fast that it almost was like it was really hard to analyze the game from that point on. You go down 28-0. It's like nobody's really playing normal football at that point anymore. One team's just trying to milk the clock, and the other team's just trying to get as many points as fast as they can. And like you said, I think the game plan just slips away from you, and you probably just start throwing off from. I mean, they went down 14-0 so fast, and then what was it, 28 at half? I think?
Oh yeah, there was and I was like, "There's no way they can get 28. We'll at least get the ball coming out of the gates." And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?" And at one point, it could have been 35-0, and I think they kicked the field goal or something like that. But
so I don't know, tough one to swallow. But like we said, I don't think, and I think a lot of the attitude surrounding the Lions within the locker room as well is that they're not going to dwell on this too long. It's onto the, to quote Bill Belichick, it's on to Las Vegas, right? Even though
and am I just now realizing this, the New Jersey? You rocking?
Oh yes. I meant to mention that this came in the mail, so I do want to clarify. It came after the game. All right, so jersey's not bad luck. I didn't have it for the game. It arrived yesterday, so this is my first time wearing it. 26. For those of you who are watching the video, it's 26 right here. It's my.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean,
good luck.
And that's the bad thing is the rookie got his first touchdown, kind of overshadowed. But overall, I think he played a pretty good game. But again, the game got so out of hand that still from a fantasy perspective and production wise, he had a pretty decent day. But it kind of goes without saying that it really is not gonna matter. Go ahead.
Here's an outside theory that I'm just not thinking of, because like I'm thinking now we weren't ready right? I mean, we got smacked in the mouth from the get-go. This wasn't
Which
like,
I think you mentioned Baltimore was going to take this game like this is their Super Bowl. Like, this is not. And we just said, okay, it's another game.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened. I think Baltimore took us seriously, and it showed. Their game plan was right. And with us playing two Thursday night games already, I don't think – and we had a 1 o'clock game flex to 4. Now, this is kind of a little out there, but I'm just saying maybe the Lions weren't ready for a 1 o'clock game mentally. Like, they just hadn't done it a lot this season. And so now we're back to, as we transition into this upcoming matchup with the Raiders, we're back on prime time. It's a night game. I'm much less worried about getting kicked in the mouth right when we wake up in the morning. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there.
And you know what's funny is watching the game last week is even in the years that we've struggled, I don't remember tons of games where we really got blown out. And so I really couldn't even like look at this game and be like same old Lions, because even the last year when we played Baltimore, we were way, way away from where we are now. Obviously, we lost on that last second field goal. But like, I even think when we were like kind of a scrub team, we were still kind of pound for pound swinging with people, and it kind of got away from us in the fourth. I mean, that goes all the way back to the Stafford days. You saw Stafford making those fourth quarter comebacks. I don't think there's very many games where I didn't check the stats on it and stuff like that, but I can't tell you the last time that we got smoked like this.
Yeah, that's actually, on that note, it's a good point, because I was watching the game in the third quarter and even into like the beginning of the fourth quarter. And, 28-0 at that point. Might have even got to 31, like you said. I can't remember. It was all a blowout after quarter one. But point being, in the past, if we were down 27-10 in the third quarter, you're like, we're done.
Yeah.
Here, we're 28-0, and I'm like, I'm still sitting. I'm not like we're gonna come back, but I'm still sitting here like, all right, let's see what Ben Johnson can do coming up. And obviously it turns out to nothing, but that's the product that this Lions team is putting on the field right now. Is I'm not gonna walk away when we're done.
That's exactly. Like I said, I turned off the first half, and I was like, I'm waiting for halftime to come because we'll get the ball. And the way I see it is not all teams are created equal, obviously, but this Lions team is way different. That Baltimore team continues to get better. In the beginning, they were a little rusty, but it's going to come to a point where Lamar Jackson can't do everything. But I mean, the Zay Flowers, that rookie, Odell Beckham had a great game. Obviously, Mark Andrews killed us. The tight end always kills us. But I feel like if you're a coach, you're going into the locker room and you're giving up 28, 35 points in the first half, and you don't have any. Basically, it's the same thing. It resets, and I know some coaches will be like, okay, it's 0-0 now, but basically, if they hung 35 on you the first half, there's no reason you can't go out and hang 35 again. But it's right. Obviously, you're digging yourself out of a hole. Obviously, the analogy and stuff like that. But yeah, like exactly like you said, there was, even though I turned it off, it wasn't like in past where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna. Not going to go back to it. Maybe I would check the score on the internet or something like that. But no, I waited for half, turned it back on, and there was momentum. It was definitely different. But like we said, I mean, that game was so. I mean, you get down that far, everything's out the window, and you're just kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah. So moving on then to the upcoming Monday night game. We're back home playing the Raiders, obviously.
This is the first Monday night game in Detroit in I think a couple of years, or I think Buck and those guys were talking about it, or maybe I could be wrong, but I just remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, I mean, at least we didn't have one last year, right? For sure.
Yeah, no, we didn't have any prime games really.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. It's probably been a while. I would venture to guess probably the Packers. Well, actually, I feel like I remember one, but that one was probably in Lambeau. But anyways, we'll jump right into our first segment then. If you're the Raiders, let's put ourselves in the Raiders' shoes. You're coming into a Monday night game. You're down your quarterback, obviously QB1. Brian Hoyer, right, is our starter.
Yeah, with Garoppolo, I think is back or something like that. And I mean, obviously they're not tipping their hand, but at this point.
All right, are we as the Raiders? Are we scared of the Lions?
I mean, after that loss, a home game, Monday Night Football, turmoil in Vegas like no other. Talking about run the coach out of town. Devontae Adams doesn't want to be there. I think at this point you're going in and just hoping to keep it interesting.
I agree. They just got their mouth kicked in, not as bad as we did, but by Chicago, which is certainly no Baltimore.
Which that's the only bad thing is they tasted it too.
Yeah.
So maybe, but I no, there's. I mean, for me, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think if I'm the Raiders, I'm worried. I don't see the Lions laying another egg like they did last week. So I'm a little worried. So now we can shift our focus back to Detroit. What are you looking for in this game? I guess more specifically how it starts, right? Because the last one started so poorly.
I mean, I definitely think, and I think we've said this quite a bit, and there still hasn't been like a really crisp opening drive. But I think this week Montgomery's still going to be out. I saw, Craig Reynolds obviously didn't play a whole lot last week. He was banged up. Gibbs was the feature back. I think this is Gibbs, and I keep saying this. And, last week was for Gibbs. It was his coming out party, but in front of the home crowd, I think Gibbs and J-Mo are the guys that get it going this week. J-Mo was targeted 5 or 6 times last week. It was career high, but he didn't have a catch. Gibbs obviously had a career game, and it was nothing extravagant. He got his first touchdown, but I think those guys come out. Jacobs for Vegas is he was I think the rushing record, or not the rushing record, the rushing leader last year. Really struggling this year. Devontae Adams. There's a lot to be said. Last week I watched because after Devontae Adams said, basically, I don't know if you saw this. He basically said that he doesn't look at wins and losses. He compares him, like when he's looking at greatness, he doesn't look at wins and losses. He wants to look at production. So basically, he wants to say, "Oh, he's the man. He doesn't care if he's winning or losing." So last week I tried to feed him. I knew that he had like 10 or 12 targets. Again, they're going to pepper him this week. But I mean, again, kind of like the Baltimore situation, you don't have to worry about the quarterback killing you. But they got a good running game. Even though Jacobs hasn't been that great, Devontae Adams is always going to be Devontae Adams. So I know I'm talking in a circle here, but, looking for our offense to get going, our running back, J-Mo. And then, I think our defensive line will take care of business, be back where they need to be, but definitely shut down Devontae Adams because there's really not much more that should scare you on that team.
Yeah, I'm looking for the defensive line to step up as well, kind of come with a little bit of a hunger in this game with how much they were stifled last game. I mean, so much so that it turned a full football game into a 1-half game, and we lost. Which I want to touch on. Because I was talking about the start of this game, and Baltimore won the toss and went on offense first last year, which I thought was weird. Obviously, they knew what they were doing, right? Because they marched down the field 4 straight times or whatever, so that they had a beat on something. But obviously, we see most often in the NFL, the team that wins the toss is going to defer, which is what the Lions did previous week in Tampa.
I feel like that's a Harbaugh thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you see that? Do you think this is just a one-off? Teams aren't going to adopt this, or do you see more people doing it down the road because the Ravens were successful doing it? Or do you think they're just not paying attention to it that much?
I think really what it was is, there's still in the media, we talk about everyone hyping up the Lions and stuff like that, but there's still so much hate towards the Lions and, it's the same old Lions. And I'm sure if you're in any locker room in the NFL and you're playing the Lions, you're still, even though you should take them serious, you're still like, it's the fucking Lions, And when it comes to Harbaugh, the way he is, I'm sure he just said exactly that same thing. He's like, it's the Lions. Who cares? Like, this is what we're going to do. And he's one of those guys that, those coaches that are just going to say, hey, let's stick it to him and see what happens.
Yeah. that was interesting. I couldn't believe that they did that and then went out and executed the way they did. I was like, they must know something. So yeah, I guess they were just ready for that game plan. But anyways, I'm getting off track here because we're talking about this Raiders game.
You said defensive line, and obviously, this is funny because before the Atlanta game, we talked about no pass rush, and then obviously it exploded. So do you anticipate something like that where there was no pass rush? Maybe these guys got held, got balled up anger that. If Hoyer's in there, the Raiders' offensive line isn't extravagant, but do you think this is another coming out party?
Yeah, that's kind of why I want to see them come out aggressively at the beginning of the game because if and again, as much as I said I'm not going to harp on these holding calls that weren't called, I know I'm circling back to it, but if we're getting through right, and let's say we have 2 or 3 sacks in the first quarter. And then maybe you look back at the Ravens film and you're like, okay, maybe there was nothing wrong with the pass rush, and there was some holding. But I'm not going to go too deep into that. We'll let the people that have all the time in their hands in the world on the internet to look into stuff like that. So yeah, just looking for the defense to be aggressive. I think we can force a couple turnovers in this game that can shut the door on the game early. Late third quarter type of deal. You talked about how much of a mess it was in Vegas, and I know we just got our teeth kicked in too, but we're a much more organized group down on that sideline than Vegas is, I think. And just being more well coached, I think will win us this game eventually. It's a primetime game, so both teams should be ready to go. Mm-hmm. It's just going to come down to who executes their game plan better. And I think I would give us the upper hand, 90 times out of 100 in this matchup.
Absolutely. And I think it's obviously being home after that, sleeping in their own beds. It's hard. You haven't been able to say it in a long time, but you definitely just said it there. It's going to come down to coaching and Josh McDaniels. I mean, these Patriot coaches, they haven't really gone on to the next success. And McDaniels, this is his second round, and they're again ready to run him out of town. And Campbell,
I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point you brought up, and I don't want to be. I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit hole yet, because I might eat my words, like I did when I titled our podcast episode last week that we were the best team in the NFL. And
they still have us as number 2 behind the Eagles.
Oh, there you go.
It's all NFC teams.
But you're talking about these Patriots coaches, and I mean, look what Bill Belichick has done since Brady's left. He's been a 500 coach, right? So I mean, really, maybe it has nothing to do with Patriots coaches. It had everything to do with Tom Brady. I don't know. I don't want to go down that. I mean, you could have an endless debate on that. Obviously, people are doing it every day. So it's interesting, though. So we'll see. We'll see. Bottom line is our coaches, I think, outdo their coaches. Hopefully, they don't embarrass us on Monday night. Do you have a score?
That's what I was going to say. So you want to get in the picks here. I'll go first. I think we get back to our roots. Obviously, we tied for the record or had the longest streak anyways of 20-plus points. Obviously, that came to an end. We get back on that train there. I think we hang 31-33. And I think that our defense dials it in and we hold them to 20. So I'll say 31-20.
Wow, okay. I was going to say 33-16. So, we're pretty close there. So, all right, both multi-possession, back to the winning games by 2 or more scores. That would be nice. Obviously, we've got a good track record on primetime so far this season. Both of those big Thursday night games, which we took the W against Kansas City and Green Bay, right? Green Bay in Lambeau. So this one's at Ford Field. Yeah, we're both looking for those wins or those big wins, and we're looking for the defense to come out huge. All right, let's move into our final segment before we get into whatever else it is that we want to touch on around the league, which is how do we compare? How do we stack up? So we've got 4 teams now with the same record as us, 5-2, sitting at 5-2. Finally fell below my fantasy team, which is 6-1. Shout out.
Ooh, look at that.
We'll get the first one out of the way because it's pretty obvious. We just played them. It's Baltimore. They're also 5-2. So I've got to say no. We are not better than Baltimore, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it's funny, it's one of those things when you play a team twice in a season. There's always that opportunity for that just to sneak one out. But yeah, I mean they look great. I mean we got outcoached, we got outplayed. I mean overall execution, everything. I mean just everything. So I'm definitely at this point Baltimore can really surprise people in the AFC.
Yeah,
Not much talk about them.
Yeah, you're right. They kind of quietly, they're quietly 5-2. Maybe not so quietly after the trouncing they put on Detroit, but you're right, quietly 5-2. And you're right. They say it can be tough to beat a team 2 times. Whoever it is, the ominous they. But yeah, I think we're both in agreement there. Until we beat them, and look, not to toot my own horn, I did say last week on the podcast, if the only quarterback that gives you nightmares is Lamar Jackson, then all you got to do is hope that you don't run into him in the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Next up is I think we've compared it before, the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this one?
Honestly, the 5-2 teams right now that are running away, I would say running away, but I mean that are at 5-2 are definitely worthy of 5-2. And I think I look at myself and say, are the Lions worthy to be in that group? And I think so, but I really think the biggest thing, I think we're built well to play Miami because we've got a lot of speed in our secondary. And our defensive line has killed the run, which they've got speed at the running game. So basically, you're taking that away. Excuse me. I think Tyreek Hill is. I mean, you're talking. I mean, who can I mean, I don't even know who to compare him to right now. Like, you had Cooper Kupp last year. Yeah. Tyreek Hill was still there, but I mean, just I feel like no matter what, he's one of those guys that you can game plan for, you can bracket, but he's gonna get it. I just think that. Yeah. I feel like we do match up really well with them, and I surprisingly would give. And I say it being a Lions guy here, I surprisingly give ourselves the nod here because I think we match up well with them.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. I think our defense is. I take this with a little grain of salt with the way our last game went, right? But I think our defense is a little more consistent than their defense. Obviously, they have an explosive offense, and that's no secret. But I don't know. I think just for the sake of being different, I think I'm going to say Miami is still slightly better. But I think that's a hell of a ball game either way, and I think both teams could win. I think both teams deserve 5-2 to kind of touch on what you mentioned. Which was a good point. I think everybody here that is 5-2 deserves to be 5-2. Which sounds weird. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you get to 5-2 if you don't deserve it. But anyways, we got 2 more. This one, maybe, I guess if there was maybe somebody who you'd be like, wow, they're 5-2. Jacksonville is 5-2. Which you went first last time. I'll go first on this one. I think we're a better team than Jacksonville, but I do think that Jacksonville's a better team than people think Jacksonville is.
Yeah. I think they're a lot like in our boat. And I feel like, and I don't know, maybe, I mean, you can elaborate on this being in Florida. Of the 2 teams, which Jacksonville has seen some success in the past 10 years, who do you hear about more in Florida, Jacksonville or Detroit?
Detroit. And especially in the area I am, I don't know what's up with Tampa, but there's a lot of Michiganders here.
Really?
I guess that maybe they just have like summer home or snowbirds.
Winter.
Yeah, right? But even like I'm in middle ground between Jacksonville and Miami too, and you hear more about Miami than Jacksonville. Really, people don't really mess with Jacksonville. They're like their own little like weird clique of Jacksonville fans,
I feel like they're a lot. I feel like they're probably last year's trajectory for the Lions on the second half of the season. I don't think that they're going to put it together on the second half like Detroit did. I think they're peaking kind of early. Don't get me wrong, a lot of talent. I mean, Calvin Ridley came on hot, and he hasn't really even done anything recently. ETN's pretty much running. Obviously, Lawrence. That's why I'm not a draft analyst. I wouldn't have thought Lawrence would have been that great of a pro quarterback. But I mean, he's done well. But overall, I mean, they're being coached well. They're playing well, but kind of in the same boat as Detroit. But I do feel that we've got a leg up on them. In head to head, I honestly head to head, it really wouldn't be a game that I go into, and I probably, like you said, I look at the record and be like, oh shit, they're 5-2. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a huge concern for me.
And it's different than the good Jacksonville teams of the past that, that team that went on that incredible run to the AFC Championship game and was kind of buoyed by their defense. Like you mentioned, this team has talent, Ridley, ETN, Trevor Lawrence. So, if they can string it together for a full season, I think they can be a team that can do damage in the playoffs. And not even like surprisingly so.
I feel like maybe they could help us by knocking somebody off that maybe we're worried about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's say they match up against Baltimore, right? And they take down Baltimore for us, and we don't have to worry about Lamar Jackson again. Yeah, obviously, we're talking scenarios where we make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we got a long ways to go.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I think we're in agreement there that right now we would take down Jacksonville. So all three have been AFC teams so far. So let's get to the only NFC team on here, San Francisco, also 5-2. I think we've talked about them, I think, a couple episodes ago. And again, I think kind of similarly built as a team. But where do you stand now, 7 weeks in? Are we better than San Francisco, or?
See, I'm back and forth because I look at them and I look at Philly. I definitely would want to play a San Francisco team or Philly, even with Christian McCaffrey. Again, that goes to our defensive line, but they've got tons of. I mean, Ayuk, they got Debo when he's healthy. I mean, a great tight end, obviously that that pretty much is that sets. I mean, outside of Kelsey, obviously Kittle he's the one that sets up all these camps and stuff like that. The tight end, but I feel like it'd be a scary game, but I feel like, and this is so weird because I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth because I feel like in the first few games of the season, Brock Purdy didn't get any love, but I feel like that's the one X factor that while he hasn't played horrible, he's kind of come down to earth. He's kind of one of those guys that like everywhere else like has elite quarterback, elite running back, elite wide receiver, where he's not one of those guys that even because he's winning, that scares you. And maybe I'm like, again, talking out both sides of my mouth. And I just, man, I feel like, again, it's going to go to speed. McCaffrey's not going to be able to run between the tackles. He'll be able to break a few outside, but we match up good. We've got good speed.
Yeah. Similar structure coach-wise, meaning just like stability and kind of how they approach their game plans. So I'm kind of with you. I flip-flop on this one. I think it's a matchup. If you play 10 times, both teams win 5. So I don't know if it's a cop-out for me to just say, like, it just split it down the middle. If I got to pick one, then I'm just going to side with the Lions and say that, yeah, maybe we're slightly better than San Francisco. But I do want to talk about this Brock Purdy situation because obviously he went on the run like end of last year into the beginning of this year. And then they lost a game and everyone was talking like, okay, because they got guys hurt, right? And if these skill guys aren't around him, is he all that we thought that he was? And I don't know. I want to take a step back, and I don't think that's fair to Brock Purdy because, we for so many games in a row, we're like, this guy's a stud, right? He's Mr. Irrelevant. He comes out there and all he does is win you football games. But then as soon as he's not winning you football games, it's like, okay, well, it's because the skill players are missing and this and that. Whereas, like, I don't know. I just feel like you give rookies like that when you throw them into an offense and they don't have any skill players to begin with, like what normally happens when you're drafted first overall because you're on a garbage team. Then we kind of give them time, and it's like now we see Brock Purdy lose one game and we're like, oh, is this guy not who he thought? It's like, come on. I mean, the guy won so many games, and like I get it, he's surrounded by a good team, but like let's give him some time to like grow up. Like he's still. I don't want to say he's immature, but
No, I
he's
agree.
got growth to do.
It's like I said, talking out both sides of your mouth. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't scare you, but he does everything right.
Yeah, I get what you mean by he doesn't scare you, because it's very much why I agree with you. I'd rather play the Niners than the Eagles, because just dealing with Brock Purdy, I think, is less of a handful than dealing with Jalen Hurts. So I get what you mean. I just, on that, I'm not staging an argument on that point. I just think that the media needs to chill out on blaming Purdy when there's no skill guys around him. Like, just I don't know.
No, I agree.
I don't really have a bone to pick, because I don't know. The worse the Niners do, the better it is for us. But
absolutely.
So that finishes up. Those are all the 5-2 teams. There are, like you mentioned, the Eagles, the Chiefs. They're both 6-1. So we do got some teams to chase if we want to be that power rank number one. But still plenty of season left to do that.
Yeah.
Anything else around the league that you want to touch on? How's your fantasy team doing this year? Well, you got a couple, don't you? How's your best
one? 6-1 and 5-2 is about where I'm sitting at. Actually, tell you the truth, early on I was looking at it because I took Gibbs second or third round, and I was like, man, I don't know, but I ended up getting Kamara late, so he's kind of come on and helped fill that gap.
I did that too. I drafted Kamara late as well.
So him, but I got Tyreek Hill, and that was my number one pick, and that too has been really carrying. But Lamar Jackson is my quarterback, so I've been lucky running into some points. So fantasy's been good so far. That's why I love, and I've got actually Laporta. I took him late in a lot of my leagues. Homer pick him. Actually, I got Gibbs, Laporta, and JMO on one team. I just figured we'd score some points, but Laporta is actually my backup in all my other leagues, so that worked out good. But yeah, fantasy, I'm lucky. So far, at least, anyways. Again, just like regular NFL, it's early on, but I definitely got some things here that I got a couple things I want to bring to roundtable. I don't want to talk too much. I obviously quickly I just want to pay respect to Marvin Jones Jr. walking away from football, retiring.
Yeah, that's right.
He was with us obviously in past, came back, didn't have a great season. Whatever's going on, you could tell it was unfortunately affecting him on the field. And I don't know if you know this, when he was with us originally, he has a big family. His wife started a company called Nothing Bundt Cakes, and it's like a bundt cake in Perrysburg, local companies, but either way, they're in Ohio, obviously Detroit, but when he was originally with us, they had a son, I believe, that died really young, that really affected his family, and so I hate to see the second time around something going on where he needs to be with his family. Obviously, nothing out about what it is. So, the Ultimate Pro, he thanked the Ford family and pretty much, he was with the. Speak of the Jaguars, he's with the Jaguars the past couple seasons, but it seems like he treated Detroit and the Ford family is kind of like home. So wish him nothing but respect and love for that guy. So.
Yeah, I did see that today, and my first thought was like, too bad he fumbled this year. You're like, didn't he go until this year?
Yeah,
so.
Pretty much. That's crazy. So,
yeah,
and again, I don't know what's going on or if it's something that's been affecting him all season, but he's definitely not been himself. But either way,
Yeah, he's had personal reasons, and obviously, all the Detroit fans I saw were, sending him love and stuff like that, and yeah, so I know we wish him the best. Speaking of retirements, did you also see Chase Winovich?
Yeah, I did. This sounds bad. I didn't know he was still playing, but yes,
I didn't either. Actually, after he left the Patriots, I lost track of him. I guess he went.
Where was he? Or was he a free agent, or was he with somebody?
I think he was a free agent. Yeah.
Either way, you don't want to see that.
He got cut after like 3 weeks this year. I can't remember where it was. I want to say Miami, but that could be wrong.
Gotcha. But good segue right there, Michigan guy. I could not talk about Michigan, Harbaugh, the situation. Harbaugh, the AD saying they didn't know anything about it. Obviously, now the NCAA coming out and saying this dude bought over 30 some tickets between 3 different names. whether it was SEC teams. Obviously, they thought it was first in the Big Ten. Then it was potential SEC teams that were maybe in the college football playoffs. Over 30 games this guy went to. There's film. Basically, there was a film, or I don't know who they were playing. I didn't see who it was, but basically, the quarterback called an audible, and it showed him in the background as the quarterback was making the signs. He was telling the defensive coordinator, "This is what's coming," so the defense was changing plays. But what do you think? Because this is kind of like the Houston Astros, and I think you're going to be surprised on my take on this. But what do you think about something like this? Is this kind of like an unwritten rule? Is this like cheating? Is this like, what do you think about this?
To me, what do I think about like sign stealing in football in general?
In what like they're pretty much. I feel like 100%. This dude is. Don't get me wrong. He's doing this. Whatever. He's going to be the fall guy for the organization. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to get in trouble, and it's going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
But what's your thought on somebody, say a scout or somebody just said, "Hey, I'm going to go to games. I'm going to do this."
Yeah, look, I think that it's, if you could do it, like, to me, I don't think the whole thing is like a huge crime. Obviously I'm with you. I would love to dog on Michigan if I could, but and I'm not going to sit here and argue if he broke the rules or not, right? That's a whole different argument. I'm sitting here and debating, is the rule, should it be a rule?
And that's where,
rules, right?
And not to talk over you, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, but is this like some kind of rule that you can't like scout teams?
Yeah, they said so in the NCAA. You can't scout in person ahead of time. Which
okay,
so you can scout off.
So potentially, yeah.
And you can scout in game. You can steal signs in game. You just can't steal signs. You can't go to a team prior to matching up with them and videotape or get signs, which to me is like, and they've got like reports of them going back to 2021 doing this. And like, look, if you're a college program and you're not changing your signs between 2021 and now, like, you deserve it. And some of these coaches are coming out saying like, even if they are stealing your signs, like, you still got to execute. This is a physical, like Deion Sanders said, this is a physical sport. You got, like, this isn't stealing signs in baseball where, like, if you know what pitch is coming, you have a huge advantage. If you know what play is coming in football, you still have to have the physicality to stop the play or to run the play on offense as it should be run.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, like, I don't think it's the reason they're blowing teams out. I think Michigan's a really good team with really good structure, both on offense and defense. But I don't know. I think it happened with the Patriots when they were good, happened with the Astros when they were good. And I know everyone keeps harping on this. It's like when you're really, really good and you're destroying people are going to look into you and they're going to find something because, look, if you looked into Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, any of these teams, Texas, they're doing something. I guarantee you, if you looked hard enough, you could find something. So that's where I stand on the whole thing, But also, like, on the other hand, like I mentioned, if he broke the rules, he broke the rules, and there needs to be punishment handed down. Then we can have a discussion on, let's change the rules, right? Because in college, they don't have the microphones and the helmets. That's the big, like, you have it in the pros, you have it in high school, but you don't have it in college. It makes no sense.
That's exactly where I agree with you 100%. I so badly want just to be like, yep, Michigan, but like really I really look at the Astros, and granted, when they were using clickers, that was stupid, but like the trash can, but like, dude, to get the competitive edge, you're doing everything you possibly can. Yeah, I remember when I was young, I would always try to pick up on things, like, and it's no different than when a quarterback's making an audible at the line and calling out a blitzer or something like that, and
right.
And I get it, that's in the game, and I so badly want Michigan to get smacked for this, but to me, like, this is so obsolete and so dumb, and I feel like it's just splitting hairs. But on the flip side, the only thing that I don't like about it, and again, this is just me, I don't know, but to say that somebody's on your organization doing this, and as an AD and a head coach, and you don't know anything about it.
Oh yeah, that's BS. Yeah,
that's where I'm just like, okay, like, come on, like, there's no way. How are you gonna? for scouted 30 teams and all of a sudden he has all these calls on the line, they're not going to question it, But again, to me, I mean, I'm all about the competitive edge. This goes way back, obviously, and obviously the past couple of years, there've been some stiff penalties, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this boils down. But I'm sure this is going to make a point of, like I said, he's going to be the fall guy. I don't think anything crazy. They're having a great season. I don't want this to, jeopardize that season. But I definitely think that rumblings will come out from Ohio State. Rumblings will come out from Alabama. There's going to be different things, and there's going to be multiple investigations.
Yeah, I don't think, like, as far as punishment wise or even wrapping this whole thing up, it's not going to happen this season, right? But it's going to be interesting as those matchups come up, right? When they play Ohio State or if they get to the playoff and they're playing those teams, and people aren't going to be obviously scrutinizing the hell out of the video on Twitter or X and wherever, and they're going to be zooming in on the sideline, stuff like that. So people are going to squeeze this to death, obviously, but. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. But like you said, it's BS. Like even if he comes out and says like, "Oh, I knew he was scouting, but that's the extent. Oh, that's all I knew." Right? He said he was scouting. Yeah. I didn't know. Like, no, come on, man. Like,
No, I agree. So,
all right. So we'll wrap this bad boy up real quick with just following up on some Red Wings stuff. We said last week that we had 3 games. We wanted to win 2 of them. We did that. We won the back-to-back Saturday and Sunday. Big game against Ottawa, took it to Calgary. It's good to see DeBrincat and Larkin.
A little hat trick action.
Yeah. Have you been able to catch a game yet?
Oh, yeah. Obviously, that night that I had messaged you, I obviously watched on.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, I've been trying to keep up as much as I could, and obviously following in, obviously social media and everything. But yeah, I mean, overall, I saw a statistic. Basically, if you look at the entire roster, what they're on pace for points-wise and goals-wise, it was kind of outlandish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
the opposite of past years where we've been like so far behind other teams as far as our players' points totals. But yeah, the team is shooting at, I think I saw today, a 16% clip, which is absurd, and that's not going to hold up for the entire season. But it's still cool to see right now. DeBrincat and Larkin up at the top of the league in points, and it's like they look like they've been playing together for.
Yeah, it's wild.
They know where each other is. It's insane. The power play is on fire. We kind of got screwed Tuesday night against the Kraken. I think we should have won that game. There were some questionable calls. But again, like I said, we're not going to be a podcast that calls out the refs. And I'm going to say that every time I call out the refs. But here we go. Looking good. Looks like a real – what are they now? 6-2? I got to pull.
6-2.
I forgot the Kraken one is in overtime. So, I mean, look, 5 wins, 2 losses, just like the Lions. I mean, here we are back in the discussion. Who wins the championship first? I don't know. I think they're both racing for it.
There we go. But yeah, it's definitely. I think I said this last year, and I kind of ate my words. But it's fun right now. We'll see what Pistons do. Pistons. I saw some predictions on them. Basically, anywhere from the 9th to the 13th, which is dead last. So basically, missing the playoffs. But yeah, overall, again, a lot of youth, a lot of excitement around the city. So we'll ride this as long as we can.
Yeah, we're gonna get those of you join us next week. We're gonna get our first. Mike's gonna give us our first Pistons update because
I just got excited here. I just dumped myself.
Yeah, we lost him there for a second, but
yeah.
All right, if you've got nothing else, I got nothing else. We'll just throw out appreciation for everyone tuning in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For those of you that hopped in the live, shout out Ryan McCarthy, who gave us a comment today. We flashed up on screen. We didn't really get to talk about it, but thanks for tuning in. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can find us. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, as always, we appreciate y'all. Share it with friends. Let them know we are the realists out of Motor City. Until next time, we've got a Monday night game. Let's get a couple more dubs from the Red Wings. And we'll have a fresh new update on the Pistons when we see you next week.
Ooh-wee.
Deuces, and everybody stay safe.